What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Blitz Sports Media. My name is Ryan Linklater, and today we are back with our rookie running back rankings. We broke down the wide receivers, we broke down the tight ends, and now it's the position that you guys are all looking forward to seeing where I'm ranking guys for dynasty and redraft purposes. This list is a little bit of a mix of both, and I think this kind of goes hand in hand with how each player's outlook looks heading into the 2025 NFL season. So this is going to be a longer list. Let's hop right in to our rookie tier rankings here. We'll pull this thing up. We're using Tier Maker, great website, going through and breaking these players down. And it's very clear who the number one player is who stands alone in the S tier. It is Ashton Jeanty. Jeanty is in for a monster season with this first year with the Las Vegas Raiders. We know that they invested a ton of draft capital picking Jeanty where they did. Ultimately, Ashton Jeanty is walking into a very good situation. He has a veteran quarterback with Geno Smith. He has playmakers at the tight end position, at the wide receiver position right now, and the offensive line isn't necessarily, a top tier unit, but they're definitely formidable there, especially against the run. What I really think with Ashton Jeanty is its opportunity. He walks into a situation where Las Vegas had no other competition on the roster outside of drafting Jeanty. And with Jeanty, he's going to walk into 250 to 325 targets touches at the running back position in his rookie season. Now he might not be as efficient as he was in college. I mean, he had 2,000-yard seasons. That's probably unrealistic, but the talent is there. He's an elusive. His body type, he's not necessarily the biggest guy, but he's a bruiser back there. He is going to be a dynamic running back in this league for a long time. Jeanty is by far the best player in any single format out of the rookie class. Heading into our second player here, the first player in the A tier, Omarion Hampton. Now, Omarion Hampton, guys, he is very, controversial, it feels like, in PPR formats and, redraft formats, just because the situation in Los Angeles, they have Najee Harris. They, typically ran a split last year with Gus Edwards at times and J.K. Dobbins. But I am here to tell you that despite him being a clear top three pick in Dynasty, he is still well worth taking a risk on in redraft formats. Him and Najee Harris can both eat in this Los Angeles Chargers offense. They both are interior type running backs. They're going to do very well in a gap scheme that Los Angeles seems to have a ton of success with. We saw that, with Greg Roman at the helm. Our running game has always been incredibly efficient and effective. Omarion Hampton, with the draft capital the Chargers invested in him, passing on wide receivers, it suggests that Omarion Hampton is going to have a significant impact in year one. Now, I'm not saying weeks 1 through 4 will be the clear lead. It looks like Najee will probably take on that role, but I am expecting Hampton to play 50 to 60% of snaps towards the end of the season and work in as that true RB1 for the Los Angeles Chargers, ultimately making him a very valuable fantasy asset. Heading into our next option here, guys, TreVeyon Henderson for the New England Patriots. Henderson, probably the biggest home run hitter in this draft class, regardless of position. He can catch a ball and take it to the house just like that. He's a shorter guy, but ultimately his explosive playmaking ability puts him in a great situation to succeed in New England with them not necessarily having, the talent that a lot of these other teams have. Henderson is ultimately going to be in for a big role in this New England offense. Ramondre Stevenson struggled with fumbles last year. Antonio Gibson, we know, is nothing special right now. TreVeyon Henderson is that home run hitting running back type that can absolutely produce for the New England Patriots right away. Since they don't have a lot of receiving depth, I know we have Stephon Diggs coming back from ACL. You got some guys mixed in there. They drafted Kyle Williams. I think TreVeyon Henderson can be a significant contributor in the passing game from day one. He doesn't need 20 to 25 touches to be fantasy relevant. This guy needs 14 to 18 touches, and he is going to be a PPR demon this year in fantasy football. And in long term, I love his value even more going forward. Heading into our next guy here, his teammate Quinshon Judkins makes his way into the A tier, and I absolutely love myself some Quinshon Judkins this season for the Cleveland Browns. Now, guys, the Browns' offensive line's a mess. I am just going to tell you guys that right now. And they did draft Dylan Sampson as well. So it's definitely not necessarily like the clearest room. They do still have Jerome Ford, but investing the capital that they did in Quinshon Judkins in the early second round, it suggests that the Cleveland Browns are clearly going to make this guy their RB1 right away from day one. He's going to have a clear opportunity to touches with the quarterback room that I don't see much rushing upside with Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, Shadur Sanders. All these guys love to check down at the running back position. That bodes very well for Quinshon Judkins, who is underrated as a receiver. As a rusher, we all know how talented he is. 1,000-yard seasons every year in the SEC. Like, this guy is an absolute dog. And then the last year goes to the Big Ten and just dominates with Travion Henderson, winning themselves a national championship, forming one of the best 1-2 duos we've ever seen. Judkins is a playmaking back who has he's kind of a brute at the running back position. I really like his outlook. He may not be as efficient and effective as the guys ahead of him, but he is going to have the volume to make up for it. And long-term purposes, when the Browns figure out this offensive line, I think Judkins is going to be a playmaker for them. And then we're going to head to our last player in the A tier. We'll show you guys that right now. RJ Harvey for the Denver Broncos. Now, a lot of people are torn on RJ Harvey's value due to his age. And guys, I'm here to tell you that the age does not matter in this situation. RJ Harvey being at 24 years old, it does not matter. Sean Payton wanted RJ Harvey, and that tells me a ton. Sean Payton has produced a ton of very valuable players at the running back position in fantasy football. Harvey, was borderline middle third, late third pick. The Broncos had an opportunity to get a talent like Amarian Hampton, which we all expected them to draft in the first round, but they passed. They said, you know what? We're going to go get the guy that we love in this draft, and that's RJ Harvey. We're going to draft him in the second round. We don't necessarily have a running back we love, and we're going to make this guy a starter in year one, and he is NFL ready. I mean, 1,500-yard seasons at UCF. This guy can play football, and I absolutely love the fact that he can immediately step into a 3-down role within this offense. I think RJ Harvey is an absolute steal. And I think if you're overthinking RJ Harvey, just tell yourself Darren Sproles, Alvin Kamara, Mark Ingram, Jamal Williams. Sean Payton can do it with running backs. Now, it didn't happen with Javonte Williams, Julio McLaughlin in Denver, but it's happened so much in the past that we have to buy into the RJ Harvey hype. And he's not necessarily overpriced right now with where he is. He's a great, great pick right now in fantasy football. We're going to head to our first player in the B tier here, and it is Caleb Johnson. Caleb Johnson, yeah, I'm bullish on him just a little bit. He's not an athlete. He is a very, up high type runner to where he doesn't get great leverage. I think Caleb Johnson production in college is good. Don't get me wrong, and I think he matches very well in the Steelers. I think the thing that we have to be most excited about with Caleb Johnson is he is a more athletic version and younger version of Najee Harris. And Najee Harris, we saw constantly produce these big time seasons here with 1,000 yards and, was consistently an RB2 despite him never necessarily being the most talented player in the league. But ultimately, though, I think that Caleb Johnson is a younger version of Najee. He walks into a, offense to where he will have a timeshare with Jaylen Warren. But the biggest thing that hesitates me from him jumping up a tier is those guys have potential to be an RB1, a majority of weeks. Johnson, I'm not sure. Arthur Smith has not been necessarily the most running back beneficial, guy since Derrick Henry, but I think Caleb Johnson definitely walks into a situation where 15 touches a game are realistic, and he can be a better version of Najee Harris. So that is definitely very, very exciting there. Our next player here in the B tier is Cam Skattebo. Skattebo had unbelievable production at his time with ASU carrying themselves to the college football playoff. But ultimately, there are some concerns with him heading into the NFL. He has a little bit of an injury history. The body type, the mold isn't necessarily ideal, but the production's there. He absolutely was a dog in college, and he finds himself in a situation where he does have an opportunity to working through and earning those touches for the New York Giants pretty quickly for them. Now, we know that Tyrone Tracy's there. He's more of a receiving type back, and I think Tracy will probably operate more as a receiver more than Skattebo to start his career. But I think Skattebo can expect 8 to 10 touches right out of the gate for this Giants team as they look to find a little bit more explosiveness out of the backfield. Tyrone Tracy was good, not great last year, and I think Skattebo can provide a little bit more upside there in this B tier class at the running back position. So let's hop into our players in the C tier right here. We got a bunch of guys here that I think are very interesting and could be, a flash in the pan, but it's definitely a little bit interesting for sure. And our first guy here is going to be where is he? There he is, Bashul Tutin from the Jacksonville Jaguars. A lot of people are a little bit higher on him than I am, but he walks into a situation where he has Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby already there. I know that Liam Cohen absolutely loves, to mix in the running backs, kind of like he did in Tampa Bay last year, where it wasn't ideal for a lot of us. We saw Sean Tucker playing for random reasons, but Tank Bigsby still feels like the clear early down winner. Travis Etienne, he has his limitations as a runner, but ultimately is still a really solid third down back in this team. I don't see that changing very often, and I think Bashal Tutin is going to have a harder time finding the field. His biggest problem is his fumbles. He can't seem to hold on to the ball much, and he has very split criticism on his pass blocking abilities. I think Tutin is a talented runner and has a lot of upside long term, but I don't necessarily see that until Travis Etienne's contract expires for this team, someone else taking over that third down role. And I think Tank Bigsby did enough last season to earn a consistent role on early down. So I think Tutin finds himself pretty clear in that C category. Our next player here, I had to add to the list. I do not know how this tier list didn't have him, but it is Jaden Blue for the Dallas Cowboys. Blue is a sneaky running back who never found his, RB1 type share for this Texas offense. Always had to find a way to split touches with guys. But for the first time, it feels like he has a clear opportunity to touches for the Dallas Cowboys. Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, is that scaring anybody away from an RB1 competition? And I think as a rookie, despite Jaden Blue not necessarily being as, shoe in as a prospect as all the guys ahead of him, I really like his opportunity to success. He does not have a player in front of him that has had a good NFL season now in 2 years. I think Jaden Blue is fresh legs in Dallas. He has production at a big school at Texas. And I think that, he's fresh. This guy was never like a full workhorse running back in college. Now, that might be a knock on him earning a bell cow role, but he's fresh. He has young legs. He can work into a Dallas scheme that I know Schottenheimer wants to run a ton of power type schemes, a lot of man concepts in the running game, which Blue I think could be very successful with as a ball carrier. So I really like Jaden Blue's opportunity to step into this offense and ultimately be a really, really good playmaker for them. My next player here is Devin Neal. I'll pull up our tier list here for the New Orleans Saints. I think Neal is in a peculiar situation here to where Alvin Kamara is getting a little bit older. You don't necessarily have a guy in Kendre Miller you really love at the running back position. Blue is a little bit of, or sorry, not Blue. Neal is a little bit of fresh blood in that New Orleans backfield. And I know he wasn't the highest picked player in this draft, but I think a lot of people can agree that Devin Neal is a very good prospect and honestly was a steal for the New Orleans Saints where they got him. Alvin Kamara is getting up there in age, and they're going to need to find a running back of the future. And I think Devin Neal comes in at the perfect time. He can learn from Kamara while he's still eating a solid workload there. Kendre Miller is not doing himself any favors with how he's played when he has had the opportunity to work in as an RB1. I think Devin Neal has a real opportunity to match his college production, learn from a great running back in Alvin Kamara, and eventually take over the Saints backfield. No, I don't think he's going to be viable in redraft formats this season, but in Dynasty, this guy is a dart throw that I absolutely want to take. And I think Devin Neal is a player that could be very sneaky for this upcoming season. Our next player here is Dylan Sampson for the Cleveland Browns, heading into that C tier right there. Sampson, like I mentioned before, finds himself with Quinshon Judkins for the Cleveland Browns. It looks like they're doing a complete overhaul of this backfield in Cleveland that really, really struggled last season. Sampson had incredible production at Tennessee, but ultimately it's the situation that I'm not necessarily super high. And I think if he lands in a different team, he could find himself as high as the B tier on this list because the talent is there. Sampson is a very good running back, and I think him and Quinshon Judkins pair very well in Cleveland long term. But I think with the being with Quinshon Judkins where he was drafted, Jerome Ford still there. I don't know if he has a clear opportunity to touches in his first year, and then he's still going to be in a backfield committee with Judkins throughout, where Judkins will be more the 1A and he could be more the 1B type running back. It seems like his ceiling, as long as he's tied to Judkins and Judkins is productive at least or at minimum. His ceiling seems like a David Montgomery, Jamal Williams type player, which is very, very hard to come by on a consistent basis. So I like Sampson as a prospect, but the fit doesn't necessarily make a ton of sense. My next player here, Kyle Monagai for the Chicago Bears. And a lot of people are like, who? Who is this guy? Like, why do I need to know this guy's name? Well, frankly, the Chicago Bears needed a running back. DeAndre Swift, Roshan Johnson weren't necessarily the most flashy players and didn't necessarily produce very well in the field. And we know Ben Johnson loves a good running scheme. I think Monagai could be that player that steps in and, maybe he's that big running back that produces and can ultimately score a bunch of touchdowns on the goal line for the Chicago Bears. I think until they make another move, he's a deep, deep sleeper that you guys need to pay attention to. So, some other deep sleepers I'm going to throw on this list. You got DJ Giddens in here. You got Jarquez Hunter. You got Brashard Smith, all in that tier list for me right there. I think ultimately you find these players and you think, DJ Giddens ends up with the Indianapolis Colts, Hunter with the Los Angeles Rams, and then Brashard Smith in Kansas City. Out of these guys like Giddens and Hunter, clearly behind very talented running backs in Taylor and Williams, I think Giddens is a very, very good player and has third down upside ability. But we've seen that, with Anthony Richardson, if he is their long-term option, not necessarily the most friendly guy to check down to the running back position. And then with Jarquez Hunter, he finds a situation where he is the RB3 in this team. Like, I don't necessarily see Hunter carving out a big enough role for me to say, like, hey, this guy's worth taking a shot at in Dynasty. I would rather take a guy like Brashard Smith, who finds himself as the third running back in Kansas City, but Isaiah Pacheco is almost on the last years of his deal. You have, Elijah Mitchell in there that doesn't scare many people. Kareem Hunt is getting up there in age. Like, I think Brashard Smith is a longer term play because he does have that elite speed, had really good production in college. He could develop into something in Kansas City. And remember, Isaiah Pacheco was a 7th-round pick as well, just like Smith. So ultimately, I think Smith has higher upside, but Giddens is the best player in this class if you're looking to take the best talent overall. And then heading into our final tier here, guys that landed in situations that are definitely a little bit interesting, but not necessarily super flashy. You got Taj Brooks. You got Trevor Etienne in here, Ollie Gordon, Jordan James, Damian Martinez, and then you got Raheem Sanders mixed in here as well. Ultimately, out of these players, guys, I think like Taj Brooks is the player that I keep coming back to. Zach Moss does return for the Bengals, but who knows if he's going to be the same type of player he was prior to the injury. I think, Chase Brown's clearly the bell cow, but why can't Taj Brooks, potentially be an RB2 that takes 25-30% of touches? ETN in Carolina, don't love it this year, especially with Rico Dowdle there. Ollie Gordon, Jordan James, Martinez, and Sanders, just not necessarily going to find the field very much in their rookie seasons. Ultimately, though, guys, this is my rookie running back tier list heading into the 2025 NFL season. It's Ashton Jeanty and then everybody else. And that's how it's going to be all off season with these rookies. If you're worried about RJ Harvey, don't sweat it, guys. He has Sean Payton. He is going to produce for this team. And then if you're looking for a deep sleeper, let me tell you, Jaden Blue, Kyle Monagai, remember the names. All in all, though, guys, appreciate you guys tuning in and making it to the end of this video. Make sure you hit the subscribe button for more Blitz Fantasy Football content, and I will catch you guys next time.